But what you did is you met a need in the marketplace and you pretty much built something, it made money, and then you continue to iterate according to the needs in the marketplace. Who is technical? How did you build it? Give me the configuration, your team, co-founders, etc.
Sure. So yeah, I did some programming. Back in the day, I studied math in university before switching into business. When I launched this initial kind of venture in COVID, we actually just managed to bring on a developer who wanted to work on the problem with us, my co-founder and I. So we built that business with him, and then we used the money from that to be able to pay a team here. So while I can speak the language, I haven't coded in a while. And
Yeah.
yeah, we just have a team doing that in-house.
Okay, so that's really great. So one question I'm going to ask, because a lot of our founders here at Startups.com, they're not technical. If you had to give advice, let's establish this here. You are non-technical. You brought on technical people. You create a business that did $1 million plus in revenue. What is the secret? What would you advise non-technical founders to do if they're in the same spot?
So, well, first off, the main piece of advice is get a technical co-founder. Right?
Yeah.
It'll make your life a million times easier.
Oh, yeah.
When we launched this like COVID app back in the day, it was insane for us. Like I wasn't sleeping at all that time because like just the volume of customers we had coming on. I mean, we couldn't handle that. Our platform couldn't. It was a bit of a nightmare. But with that being said, generally, if you can find a good timing piece, it's generally a lot easier to make things happen. So we used COVID for two of our big timing pieces, right? We saw when COVID happened, people will need a health screening app. And then we saw at the tail end of it, people will want to get out and socialize. There's always going to be something happening in nearly every industry. So identifying what those trends are and then kind of looking into the direction that your industry is going, that will make your life a million times easier. I know startup investors like to say team and timing are the two big things they look for. Realistically, good teams are constantly identifying and executing on timing trends. It just comes down to being very cerebral with what's happening in the different spaces that you might want to be working in and executing on helping, I guess, move them along in the direction they're going.
Sure. That doesn't answer the question, though. Let's get a little more explicit. We have non-technical founders. Let's just take for granted they're able to see that opportunity, get in there. But how did you get to the point where you got somebody technical, a developer, you've been doing it and you haven't lost your shirt, you're not losing your mind, you're not frustrated with like a developer team in India or someone that's ripping you off? Because this story happens over and over and over again. How did you manage to pull it off?
Yeah. So I put some of my money up like right out front. And at one point, like, I mean, I got down to $500 in the bank at one point and our company was 15K in debt.
Okay.
So yeah, don't do that. It was stupid of me. I was told by my early like people in the startup community that I spoke with, I was kind of told like, oh, just build something, get it out there, show investors that it can make money, and then they'll invest in your product. So I put something out there, I showed investors it could make money, but it was a shit product because it was our first version, right?
Yeah.
We were just held up by an amazing timing trend, but we were having like massive churn there because we were working our day in, day out to improve our scalability issues. And investors saw that churn, right? And they're like, I'm not going to invest in a product with this much churn. So we couldn't raise any money. Right? That was ultimately, and to be fair, I mean, it's probably better that we didn't for that business because it wasn't something I really wanted to do in the long term.
That makes sense.
But again, I put myself in a bad situation because I started with the amount of resources that you would really need to get a product into market, not the amount that you would need to get product market fit. And
Sure.
Generally getting to market is actually not that difficult, whereas getting to product market fit is extremely difficult. Those are massive gaps. I think a lot of founders start with the resources required to get a product in market, and then they end up in this product market fit quagmire. It's kind of what you mentioned, Ed, where they have a product live, but it hasn't been iterated on enough. It hasn't had enough customers come through and stress test it to get to a point where it's really amazing. So that's why I generally recommend almost all founders, either if you have an insane network and you can set up 50 investor meetings over a week, try to raise before you do anything. Otherwise, try to start with someone technical who is really willing to get nitty and gritty and make sure that you have a good product that can grow on its own.
And that was what you were able to do. You were able to find a technical person that wanted to get nitty and gritty, at least in the early stages.
Yes. And that case is, I mean, it's hard to find good people. It's very difficult. So that's another thing that we've made some mistakes with hiring developers in the past. It doesn't feel good. You might have heard the saying, hire slow, fire fast. I would echo that.
Absolutely. 100%. I've met with CEOs, huge CEOs, people who are absolutely just on top of their game. And when I asked them, what's the one piece of advice when you're at that stage and you've got money and you've got revenue, that's the most common thing. Hire slow, fire quick. And I live by that as well. Let's talk about launching. You get a product out there, and then you talk about that quagmire. So how did you get to the point where product market fit? You got 30,000 people on board with your app right now, which is amazing. I love the fact that you are really taking on a specific city, a location, and then you can show how you've done that. And you can tell investors, okay, we can go to other cities. It's like pouring gasoline on the fire.